MMC TV USA. Now on POTV, Channel 100.
Well, hello there once again and welcome to MMC World Roundup, bringing you news from Sri Lanka and across the globe. Well, as we get started, let's take a look at your top stories first. India's unified payment interface introduced to Sri Lanka. TRC urges proper registration of SIM cards. The Ceylon Petroleum Storage Terminal signs an agreement with US-based petroleum products distributor Shell RM Parks. The dollar edges higher against the euro and other major currencies. Well, taking a look at the news in detail, India's unified payment interface transactions via Lanka QR was officially introduced to Sri Lanka at a virtual launch held recently. The real-time payment system aims to enhance digital payments for Indian tourists in Sri Lanka. India's instant payment technology unified payment interface services were simultaneously launched in Sri Lanka and Mauritius in the virtual presence of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, President of Sri Lanka Ranil Wickremesinghe and Prime Minister of Mauritius Pravind Jugnauth. According to the President's Media Division, the initiative led by the National Payments Corporation of India International Payments Limited and Lanka Pay Private Limited aims to rapidly expand with 10,000 merchants set to accept UPI payments shortly after the launch. By March 2024, this number will reach 65,000, providing a seamless payment solution for Indian tourists. India's Foreign Ministry had announced that the Unified Payment Interface Services and RuPay card services will be rolled out in Sri Lanka and Mauritius at a virtual ceremony on Monday, February 12th. A real-time payment system, the UPI, has been developed by the National Payments Corporation of India to facilitate interbank transactions through mobile phones. Similar to a Visa or MasterCard, RuPay is a global card payment network from India with wide acceptance at shops, ATMs and online platforms. The launch of the Indian services in Sri Lanka and Mauritius is taking place amid New Delhi's increasing bilateral economic ties with the two countries and will enable the availability of UPI settlement services for Indian nationals travelling to Sri Lanka and Mauritius, as well as for Mauritian nationals travelling to India. The Telecommunications Regulatory Commission of Sri Lanka has urged that the proper registration of SIM cards is employed by all mobile phone users. According to the Director Compliance of the Commission, Menaka Pathirana, every customer must ensure that their SIM card is registered correctly. Pathiran emphasized the importance of verifying SIM card registration status with the respective phone companies and thereby advised customers to contact their service providers to confirm the SIM cards registered under their names, particularly with regards to SIMs provided by companies they are no longer employed at. Furthermore, the director highlighted the risks associated with unregistered or illegally obtained SIM cards and urged individuals to promptly disconnect any SIM cards issued without their knowledge, as these could be exploited for illegal activities. The TRCSL director underscored the necessity of disconnecting unauthorized SIM cards linked to individuals' national identity card numbers, adding that this proactive measure aims to curb fraudulent activities and safeguard the integrity of the telecommunications network in Sri Lanka. The Ceylon Petroleum Storage Terminal signed an agreement with US-based petroleum products distributor Shell RM Parks. The agreement was signed at the CPSTL head office pertaining to the storage and distribution of fuel in Sri Lanka. As per the newly signed agreement, CPSTL is now able to store and distribute Shell RM Park's petroleum products in Sri Lanka. The government of Sri Lanka signed an agreement with RM Parks Inc. in collaboration with Shell plc for a long-term contract for the importation, storage, distribution and sale of petroleum products in Sri Lanka. The third offshore campus of the prestigious Indian Institute of Technology is likely to be set up in Sri Lanka, according to sources. The proposal for an IIT in Sri Lanka was announced last November in the 2024 budget unveiled by Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe, who also served as the finance minister. According to sources, the Sri Lankan government is in touch with IIT Madras for this ambitious project. The Indian government had announced that opportunities for admission to the IITs in India will be provided to meritorious Sri Lankan students from the 2017-2018 academic sessions onwards. If the plan for the Sri Lankan campus comes through, it will be IIT Madras's second international campus. The institute had last year announced the setting up of an offshore campus in Tanzania's Zanzibar, with Preeti Agalyam being appointed the director in charge, who also became the first woman IIT director. An MOU signed last July between India and Tanzania was the final procedural step that paved the way for the opening of the campus. The institute began functioning in November last year from a temporary campus and is offering 2 full-time academic programs, a 4-year Bachelor of Science in Data Science and Artificial Intelligence, and a 2-year Master of Technology in Data Science and Artificial Intelligence. IIT Delhi followed the league and signed a formal agreement with the UAE government to set up a campus in Abu Dhabi. The initial master's course at the IIT Delhi Abu Dhabi campus will focus on energy transition and sustainability, reflecting a shared vision between India and the UAE to leverage knowledge for mutual prosperity and global well-being. The UK is also keen on welcoming an Indian Institute of Technology to set up an offshore campus in the country, and some UK universities are already in talks with IITs to explore the possibility.
රක්ෂණ නියාමන කොමිෂන් සභාවේ වෙබ් අඩවියට සහ සමාජ මාධ්‍ය ජාලා වෙත පිවිසෙන්න.
The National Building Research Organization has warned that the quality of air in parts of the island has dropped further to unhealthy levels. Accordingly, the NBRO highlighted that apart from Nuwara, the air quality in all other districts is at an unhealthy level, with Colombo, Kandy and Jaffna recording particularly high levels of unhealthy air quality. The NBRO further warned that according to the US Air Quality Index, the quality of air recorded in Colombo, Kilinochchi, Jaffna, Trincomalee, Badulla, Kurunegala, Kandy and Matale is likely to cause adverse health effects. The NBRO says that an influx of dust particles contaminating Sri Lanka's airspace through strong winds from neighbouring countries and the extreme dry weather are likely causes for this alarming drop in air quality. Thus, the NBRO urged for those suffering from respiratory or cardiac diseases and elderly persons and children to wear face masks when outdoors. Sri Lanka has generated $3 million in revenue through the sale of 5,200 metric tons of fuel via a revived bunkering system of vessels. This signifies a significant step forward in stabilizing the country's energy finances. The establishment of a $200 million buffer stock demonstrates proactive planning to mitigate future economic fluctuations and ensure energy security. Sri Lanka currently holds the largest oil reserves in its recent history, which he said signifies a significant improvement in fuel security and preparedness. The All Island Dairy Association has voiced grave concerns regarding escalating prices of rising input costs such as feed ingredients and requests the government for assistance. The cost of producing a litre of milk has surged by 174% between 2013 and 2022, primarily due to rising input costs such as feed ingredients. Retail prices have followed suit, increasing by 168% in the same period. The additional burden of increased VAT could further strain the affordability of dairy products, potentially leading to a decline in consumption. Anticipated price increases in dairy products integral to the Sri Lankan diet could result in a significant decline in consumption, estimated to be around 30 to 40%. Such a downturn in dairy consumption has ripple effects across ancillary sectors, including packaging, transportation, and retail, potentially leading to job losses and decreased income for workers in these related fields. Members of the All-Island Dairy Association are key stakeholders in Sri Lanka's dairy sector, contributing to the collection of nearly 60% of the nation's daily milk produced by farmers and processing 200 to 250 million litres of fresh milk annually. In a bid to overcome environmental issues, the Industries Ministry will create a special zone to relocate all tannery industries to Valachaneng. They have already allocated a 50-acre land and the zone could start before the end of the year. Due to the environmental and cultural barriers, tannery industries are shunning away in populated areas and it takes around 84 weeks to get a license issued. Leather bags, small leather goods such as gloves, wallets, bags, purses, belts and key tags will be produced in the new zone.
රක්ෂණ නියාමන කොමිෂන් සභාවේ වෙබ් අඩවියට සහ සමාජ මාධ්‍ය ජාලා වෙත පිවිසෙන්න.
The dollar edged higher against the euro and other major currencies as investors braced for data on US inflation and retail sales this week for clues on when the Federal Reserve may begin widely anticipated interest rate cuts. In cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin hit $50,000 for the first time since December 2021, boosted by inflows into exchange-traded funds backed by the digital asset. The dollar index, a measure of the US currency against 6 of its peers, was slightly higher at 104.03 as the market expects the consumer price index for January due to be released on Tuesday to give the Fed further confidence that inflation is slowing towards its 2% target. Retail sales for January, due out on Thursday, are expected to slip a bit, also in a report likely to confirm decelerating inflation and cap rising treasury yields and the dollar's recent strength, said Mark Chandler, chief market strategist at Bannockburn Global Forex in New York. President Joe Biden is hosting Jordan's King Abdullah II in Washington Monday, and the two leaders are expected to discuss the ongoing efforts to free hostages held in Gaza and growing concern over a possible Israeli military operation in the port city of Rafah. It is the first meeting between the allies since 3 American troops were killed last month in a drone strike against a U.S. base in Jordan. Biden blamed Iran-backed militias for the fatalities, the first of the U.S. after months of strikes by such groups against American forces across the Middle East since the start of the Israel-Hamas war. The meeting with King Abdullah II comes as Biden and his aides are working to broker another pause in Israel's war against Hamas in order to send humanitarian aid and supplies into the region and get hostages out. The White House faces growing criticism from Arab Americans over the administration's continued support for Israel in the face of growing casualties in Gaza. It appeared a deal for another pause in the fighting was getting close. A senior U.S. administration official said Sunday that after weeks of shuttle diplomacy and phone conversations, a framework was essentially in place for a deal that could see the release of the remaining hostages held by Hamas in Gaza in exchange for a halt to fighting. The official, who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss the negotiations, acknowledged that gaps remained but declined to specify what they are. Social media platform X said on Monday it will enable advertisers to run video ads next to certain content creators, a move that could help brands prevent exposure to unwanted posts on the Elon Musk-owned site. Since the billionaire purchased the company formerly known as Twitter, many advertisers have been wary of appearing on the platform after it loosened content moderation policies. Musk has often lashed out at brands that have paused their ad spending, even cursing at them during a New York Times Dealbook interview in November. Starting this month, advertisers can choose to have their ads played before video content posted by specific creators. The ads will appear on posts in the home timeline and on the content creator's profile, X said in a statement. The company said it will later add the ability to run promotions only on a creator's profile, which X said would eliminate the chance of an ad appearing next to unwanted content. More than a fifth of the world's migrating species are at risk of going extinct as a result of climate change and human encroachment, according to the United Nations' first ever report on migrating animals. Billions of animals make journeys across deserts, plains, or oceans every year to breed and feed, and unsustainable pressures put on migratory species could not only see their populations dwindle, but also disrupt food supplies and threaten livelihoods. Of the 1,189 species covered by a 1979 UN Convention to protect migratory animals, 44% have seen numbers decline, and as many as 22% could vanish altogether. The numbers were based on assessments and data provided by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, as well as the Living Planet Index, which collates population numbers for more than 5,000 species from 1970 onwards. The report released on Monday gives a very clear direction about what governments need to do to tackle the threats to migratory species, said Amy Frankel, Executive Secretary of the UN Convention on the Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals. Humans pose the biggest threat, with activities including hunting, fishing, and other forms of overexploitation impacting 70% of the species on the UN list. Habitat loss affected up to 75% of the species, underlying the need for more connectivity between isolated ecosystems. The report's authors urged governments to avoid disrupting habitats and migration paths when installing infrastructure such as dams, pipelines, or wind turbines. Well, that's all the news we have for you today, but you can also find us on POTV, Samsung TV, LG TV, Apple TV, YouTube, and Facebook Live, reaching the entire United States and across the world. Thank you so much for joining in with us today, and catch you again next week. Have a wonderful week ahead.
Catch the full program and more. Subscribe to MMC TV USA on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.